Seeking the Lord, yes, highly entreated, wanderers on the mountain astray. Come unto me, his message repeating, words of the Master speaking today.
Going afar,
upon the mountain,
bringing the wanderer back again, into the fold, of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain,
seeking the lost and pointing to Jesus, so that our weekend hearts are soul, leading them forth in ways of salvation, showing the path to life evermore.
going afar,
upon the mountain,
bringing the wanderer back again, into the fold, of my Redeemer, Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain,
going afar, upon the mountain,
bringing the wanderer back again, into the fold, of
my Redeemer,
Jesus the Lamb, for sinners slain,
Good evening, my brothers and sisters, and all my viewers. Once again, I am your brother Paul Offin, coming to you live on my own Facebook page and also on my YouTube page. And as some of you always do, you can also take me from WhatsApp and other social media platforms. You know that for some time, maybe years, about 6 years now, I've been dealing with you on the subject of doctrine. Because I believe that in Christian religion, doctrine is very important. Because it's doctrine that has caused all these kind of fragmentations in the Christian religion. Now today, I'm going to bring an entirely different thing. We are holding on to the doctrine for now, and then we will visit it maybe in future. But for now, we're going to talk about things that affect our social life. So, I want us to pause for a while and comment on this study about our life. It is apparent that the youth in our days are being carried away by the enticement of the devil. And therefore, it is about time for us to treat topics like this that relate to our social life, focusing more on the young people. And this is why I'm starting this new series. We are going to use the book of Proverbs. Now, if we are talking about life or social life, then the best books to use for such life studies are the ones written by King Solomon and then few others. Solomon was a man who enjoyed life, to the fullest. And all his books are reflections of his own social life. And he summed up to say in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 14, and I quote what he said. He said, I have seen everything that is done under the sun. He's talking about on this earth. And behold, all is vanity and striving after the wind. He has enjoyed life to the fullest. And he concludes by saying that all that I have enjoyed, they are all vanity and striving for wind. In this study, we are going to be focusing on the book of Proverbs, as I've already hinted, which is believed by many scholars to be written by Solomon. Others also have said that the last two chapters of Proverbs, that is chapter 30 and 31, were written by two other people. They believe a man called Agur wrote chapter 30, and chapter 31 is believed to be written by a lady whose name is not given, but simply described as the mother of King Lemuel. You see, the book of Proverbs is placed under the books of poetry, and it's described as a book of wisdom, which mainly focuses on the social life of the youth or the young adult. The Hebrew word for Proverbs is mashal, which is defined as an ethical teaching that expresses a truth concerning living. The Bible describes Solomon as the most wise person ever lived, and his wisdom was gifted to him by Almighty God in order to deliver justice and fairness to his nation Israel. Therefore, we have to understand that these ethical messages are inspired words of Jehovah God to guide everyone, especially the young people. And I must say, if someone unfortunately grew up as an orphan or abandoned in life without any godly parents, then the book of Proverbs is recommended for such individuals to learn parental advice or parental counsel from God, who is our great Father. The book conveys ethical messages based on our relationship with Almighty God and also fellow man. The impartation of wisdom in this book is for the purpose of guiding the young people in the godly behavior or ethical relationship in our society. And this is the wisdom that should be followed by all young people, especially the people of our generation. They should read the book of Proverbs and other books written by Solomon, because Solomon is a person who knows everything about life, what life stands for. He enjoys to the fullest, and because of that, he was able to tell us what life is about. And in conclusion, he said that all these things are vanity. Now, the entire book of Proverbs is summed up in chapter 1, verse 1 to 7. And I want to, take this time to read that passage. And I want you to follow this carefully so that you understand the book of Proverbs, fully. It reads, "These are the Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, the king of Israel." Verse 2 says, the purpose of Proverbs is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insight of the wise. Verse 3 says, their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives and to help them do what is right, just, and fair. 4 says, these proverbs will give insight to the simple and knowledge and discernment to the young. 5, let the wise listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. Let those with understanding receive guidance. Verse 6, by exploring the meaning of these proverbs and parables, the words of the wise and their riddles. Verse 7 says, the fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. Now, this is the summary of the whole book of Revelation. The whole book of Proverbs. In this study, we will be focusing on only chapter 31. If we have to study the whole book, it will take us maybe a year to finish it, because we are going to take the things that the book says, one after the other, give you explanation, and also give you, what they call life examples. That is why we are taking only chapter 31. And even chapter 31 is more detailed. It's loaded and has so many things that will help and guide the youth in this life. In chapter 31, we believe that this is a lady or a woman who is giving warning to her son. And her son is described as King Lemuel. He was a king, even though we don't know much about this king. But we will get to know him later on. And he warned his son about the following. First, not to give his strength to women. And second, not to indulge in alcoholic drinks. And the third one, not to provide injustice to the poor or the marginalized. So these are the 3 basic warnings that this lady is giving to her son. Now finally, she also gives this young man a prudent advice on who a virtuous woman should be. Even though the Bible does not tell us who King Lemuel or his mother is, many have suggested that King Lemuel was King Solomon. And given the reason why they think King Lemuel was King Solomon, the king of Israel. You see, per the advice given by this lady, one can conclude that this king was handsome, full of exuberance, famous and rich, and for this reason may be attracted to women of his days. Even though kings in those days could take as many women as they wanted, his mother cautions him, about the danger of giving his strength to women. Now, we think that this King Lemuel is Solomon. That's what many scholars believe. Because Solomon was the most polygamous king ever lived, which may be why his mother would advise him against many women. And if Lemuel in chapter 31 was King Solomon, as many believe, then the lady who is giving this counsel or this advice is Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. So, we're going to go through chapter 31, and we are going to break them into probably 4 sections and take them one after the other. And today, it's introduction, plus probably we're dealing with chapter 31, verse 1 to 3. And if time will permit us, we go and tackle the rest. Now, from verse 1 to 3, this lady identified herself, even though her name is still withheld. We don't know her name. But this lady described the young king as the son of her womb. In that case, as a mother, she has every right to cancel her own son. These days, it's difficult to cancel other people's son because these children are even not respecting their own parents, let alone the stranger. But this lady, this is her own son, and she has every right to cancel her. Every good mother will mean well for their children. Let's say every good parent, including fathers. It is up to the children to accept this sound advice parents give. Parents, especially mothers, have a duty or godly responsibility to train and direct their young ones onto the right path. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. You see, in the human race, probably you understand why this lady is giving this advice to her own son. Because in the human race, children are more attached to their mothers than the fathers. This attachment may be because mothers carry these babies throughout the pregnancy or gestational period, breastfeed them when they are born, and also keep them warm with these little tiny baby bodies. They keep them warm. So these babies develop to know the person who is keeping them warm more, and that kind of bond becomes very strong. So for this reason, God through Solomon advises young people to show respect and also to acknowledge the input by their parents. In Proverbs chapter 23, verse 22 and verse 25, Solomon states, "Listen to your father. He gave birth to you." This is advice to the young people, to the youth. You understand? It's not only to little children. Sometimes when we say, children obey your parents, we are thinking of the toddlers or the little ones or children under 12. No. If you are still living with your parents, you may be 20 years, you may be 30 years. If you are still living with your parents, God expects you to still obey their commands, because he said, "For this pleases the Lord." So Solomon says, listen to your father who gave you life, and don't despise your mother when she is old. And this is where most of the young people today are guilty, because they reach a certain stage and they think they are old enough to be independent from, parents' counsel or parents' advice. Verse 25 of Proverbs 23 says, "So give your father and mother joy. May she who gave birth to you be happy." So God is advising young people that let your mother and your father, those who gave birth to you, be happy. I mean, if you are a young person, how many of us make their parents happy? It's not the case that you are always abusing your parents, cursing them, insulting them, leaving your parents in misery because of your behavior. My brothers and sisters, as I said, this lesson is good for everyone, especially the young people, because Solomon is targeting the youth here. And I think in our generation, we need this lesson more because of the way Satan is enticing the youth, the young people, and driving them away from God today. Paul advises children to obey their parents because of the sacrifices they've made in their upbringing. If you read Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1 to 4, Paul says, children, obey your parents in the Lord. Listen, he said in the Lord. Sometimes it's so sad that even some young people who claim to be Christians will be so attached to maybe church activities but disrespects their parents and they think that is right. No. Paul says, obey your parents in the Lord. Even when you are in the Lord, you still have to obey your parents. For this is right. For this is good. For this is what the Lord requires from you. 2 says, you must honor your father and your mother. You see, God is keen about the relationship between you and your mother and your father. So if you are listening to me and you are a young person and the relationship between you and your parents is bad, then you need to change your behavior. Because Paul says, this is the first commandment with promise that you should honor your father and your mother. Verse 3 says, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Now, Paul is quoting this from the Old Testament because to the Jews, that is what God told them. And here, Paul is saying that these commandments that God gave to the Jews in Christianity is still stand, that you should, honor your parents. And if you do that, you extend your life. Not in the land of Canaan, but even here, wherever you are. And your relationship with God will be cordial one. And then when he got to verse 4, there he advised the fathers. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Now, this lesson, we're going to talk much about the role of the fathers in young people's life. Today, many young people have swayed away from the path, and their behavior is so horrible to the society. Simply because parents, they have, they have given away what they should use to protect these kids. They are not doing their duty, their godly responsibility given to them. Parents are not doing it. And sometimes, if the parents are not disciplining their own children, who are you to discipline someone's children? Today, teachers, their power have been taken from them, and they have no right even to raise their voice on the children they are teaching. It's against the law, and they will be in trouble. And if parents have stopped their responsibility and they are not doing it, and teachers are also not doing it, then who should do it for them? Sometimes I pity some parents who are saying, oh God, change my children for me. God will never come down from heaven and change your children. The responsibility is in your hands. That is why he's advising you in Proverbs 22 verse 6 that you have to train your child, your own child. You can't give birth and ask God to train the children for you. So, fathers, I'll talk more about you in this lesson. So are the young people. In fact, this lesson is targeting the young people. But more also, we're going to talk about the parents, your role in the lives of these young people. My brothers and sisters, we parents, for that matter fathers, the scripture says, do not provoke your children to anger, but to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Are you doing this, fathers? Are you doing that? Or you have weakened this stance? God has given you all the disciplinary powers to you, the father, to ensure you bring your children up in the discipline of God. If you stop doing this, what do you think will happen to your children? And that is why we have many, bad people in our society today, because they don't get any discipline from their homes, and their teachers are also not permitted to discipline them. So you see on our streets today, children do not respect the elderly anymore. You see, when I was a child, when I take public transport, right? You take public transport, you board the transport, and then you are sitting down and you see an adult person, also coming to board the transport. You just get up even before the person. You have paid your money, but you still offer your seat for somebody who is older than you. All these kind of, good qualities that were instilled in us when we were young is now faded away from this generation. The generation, they call themselves the Gen Zs or Gen X or whatever. My advice, you see, given is the same advice given to the this lady. The advice given by this lady to this young king, remember, it's her own son, but he happened to be a king, even though the Bible does not give us detail about on where he ruled or anything about his kingdom. He just called him Lemuel the king, or the king Lemuel. Okay, so the advice given by this lady to this young king was probably because of his humanizing or polygamous behavior. Because if you look at the way he's saying, do not give your strength to women, it tells you that probably this king was either polygamous or a womanizer. We know some of the Old Testament persons or people who are taken as role models in our life today did engage in polygamy. That is taking more than one woman as what? Your wife. They took so many women. Even though marriage is only between a man and a woman, as Jesus himself reminded the Pharisees to check from the beginning if that was not the practice. In Matthew chapter 19, when the Jews brought question about marriage to Jesus, and Jesus saw that these people have gone astray, they have gone off the old path. Because they asked Jesus question, if you are saying marriage is between a man and a wife, why then did Jesus permit us, did Moses permit us to leave our wives and probably remarry? And Jesus replied to them, read Matthew chapter 19, because of your hardness of heart, because you did that on your own volition. You hardened your heart and you chose to take these women and leave them. But from the beginning, it wasn't so. Matthew chapter 19, verse 8, Jesus said, it wasn't so from the beginning. What was from the beginning? God made a man and a woman. So here, this woman is advising, her son, who is either a polygamous or a womanizer, and saying that don't give your strength to women. Now, some people today do refer to these men of the past and justify why they can also indulge in polygamous marriages. And today, you can see some people, marrying 2, 3 people. And for my brothers, Muslim brothers, they say the Quran allows them to marry 4 if you are able to, care for all of them. But we're going to go through this lesson, refer to some scriptures, and then you tell me if God allow polygamy or married to many wives or many women. You don't find this in the Bible, but let's this lesson guide us as we go through. Now, there is no evidence in the Bible where God gave permission to anyone to marry more than one. In fact, in the Garden of Eden, God made it clear. This is why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife. And the two, he didn't say the 3, he said, and the 2 are united into one. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. So my brothers and sisters, I want to pause here for today that God has a reason for putting one man, one woman in the marriage union. And that is why he said, it's God who did it. And he did it on purpose. So that a man leave his father and his mother and is joined to his wife. And the 2, he didn't say 3, 2 become one flesh. Why is this lady advising her son not to give his strength to women? So this is what we pause for today. And maybe next week we're going to talk more about polygamous marriage. People who married more than one. What happened to them? I'm going to use the Bible to tell you. We'll give you so many examples. What happened to them? Their families, their children, their wives. Then you will understand why King Lemuel's mother is advising him against taking many wives or many women. So once again, I am your brother Paul Offin. And as I said, this lesson is about our social life, the way we behave, focusing more on the young generation, but also families, husbands and wives. So, to sum it all, it's for everybody. So do share this lesson to as many as you can and invite people to follow me on this lesson. You'll get good counsel from this. And God bless you that you listen to me. If you are watching me from Facebook, give me a thumb up. If from YouTube, please subscribe to my channel so that as we go through this series, you will not miss it, because anytime I'm on Facebook or I'm on YouTube, you will get notification and you can join it so that you don't miss it. And that is why I'm asking you to subscribe to my channel. God bless you. Once again, my name is Paul Offin.